Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 11 of the Corcoran Cap podcast, where we're talking A's, Niners, Syracuse, and starting off with the Golden State Warriors. I'm your host, Sam Corcoran, and Joel, it's playoff time, baby. How you feeling about that?
Very, very excited. Playoff time, baby! This is
Dude.
After two straight years of the playoffs, you don't really realize how much you miss it. We've been spoiled by having such a good team for the last couple of years, but it's very, very exciting to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so hyped to be back. First time since my sophomore year of high school, we've been back in the playoffs, so that's fun to say. But yeah, we got first round series against the Denver Nuggets. I know Joel and I were kind of talking about that. This is the series we didn't want, but hey, it's what we got. We're gonna have to preview it, and we'll give you our prediction for this series. This is going to be a longer segment of the episode as well. We want to make sure we go in depth with this. So this could go over 15 minutes. We don't know how long it's going to go. I'm going to cap it off at 25 minutes because I got some stuff to do. Got to finish the other segments up, do all that stuff. So we'll cap it off there, but I think this should be a very fun segment. And you ready to get into it, Joel?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. So obviously Golden State Warriors, Denver Nuggets, game one at the Chase Center. And I say let's start this off by giving everyone an offensive key to the series. Joel, I'll start with you. What's an offensive key you think would be good for the Warriors to focus on?
I have two that are, less obvious than, just the basics of hitting open threes and not turning the ball over. I have two. One, making Nikola Jokic and DeMarcus Cousins, a.k.a. making the Denver Bigs work. Nikola Jokic is obviously the hub of their offense, and he's going to be extremely effective, and he's going to, he's going to get his. But if you make him guard off of guard perimeter players off of switches and just make him work, take advantage of DeMarcus Cousins when he's sitting, I'd say, because that's likely going to line up when guys are out. So hopefully you could use Jordan Poole to maybe run pick and rolls and get Cousins in vulnerable positions. So going at their bigs, making them work. That's number one. Number two, establishing Andrew Wiggins in the low block. A lot of their guards, Monte Morris, Will Barton, Bones Highland, even guys that are a little more savvy on defense, like Austin Rivers and the little goblin Facundo Campazzo, they are smaller. If you can get Andrew Wiggins within 8 feet of the hoop with those guys on him, take advantage. We love running the split action where we get Wiggins off and mismatch on smaller guys. If he can get any of those guys on him, go to work because it will likely work.
Yeah, I definitely think I like the Wiggins point more. I think the Denver big is a good thing. I think we'll talk about more of that on defense that's okay. Like a quick peek for my preview. My offensive key, it's a bit more basic, but I think Wiggins is the key player that I'm focusing on. Is just like making sure you take smart shots. And I think I'm focusing on Andrew Wiggins because I think he could be a big part of the series. Kind of you just mentioned all of Denver's forwards, Monte Morris, the little goblin, whoever the hell that was. I don't even know. Bones Highland. You're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think taking smart shots is something that you have to do to win basketball games. And I think the guy who can provide the most for that is Andrew Wiggins. I think if you get Andrew Wiggins open, I think that's going to be a key part. His second half of the season wasn't as good as his first half. Denver's probably going to be focusing on if he plays Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole. They're probably going to be focusing on the guards that shoot. Even a guy like Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga, they could focus on them as well. But I think this is why I think Andrew Wiggins could be a very sneaky player in this series and in the playoffs. This is his first playoffs ever. You don't really know.
Second, he got Minnesota. They got worked by Houston back in 2018.
It was the Jimmy Butler year.
Yeah, it was the Jimmy Butler year.
Jimmy Butler year. Yeah, so second playoffs for Wiggins. Didn't get much experience that first time.
Yeah.
But overall, I think Wiggins could be a pretty good shooter for this team. You've seen him have some good shots in the past. I know the Boston game I was at in Boston, he had some great shots, and I loved him getting the open looks. That was so fun to watch him play well. But overall, I definitely think if you can get him open, if you can make him work, I think that's going to be a very, very good option for the Warriors. And I think Denver could have some struggles with that. And I also want to talk about, I'll let you talk after this, but I want to talk on your center point, because I definitely think Denver's a team that has that kind of runs through their big man. Jokic, Cousins, obviously DeMarcus Cousins isn't the same DeMarcus Cousins as he used to be, but still.
No, but he's given them good minutes off the bench as a guy that, I mean, especially in the playoffs, your stars play more. I mean, they'll probably throw him out there for 10 to 12 minutes, and, he's going to be effective, most notably on offense.
Exactly.
Especially
and
against us because we're a smaller team.
Exactly. And I think overall, I think DeMarcus Cousins could be a bigger piece in this series than people think. When you look at the Nuggets, people are like, oh, Nikola Jokic is going to play all these minutes. Watch out for DeMarcus Cousins. Denver's a deep team, and it shows with DeMarcus Cousins right there. I think they could have some trouble with him.
Yep, and Cousins, obviously a former Warrior, knows the ins and outs of our offense better than some guys would. I feel like it's a sneaky one.
I would disagree with that because the team has transitioned so much since he was on the team.
True, but Kerr's offense, as far as the constant ball movement, player movement, that hasn't changed. But it's obviously become more centric around Steph and Steph and Poole. But it's for the most part, it's relatively similar.
Exactly. It's gonna be it'll be an interesting thing to see what DeMarcus Cousins does against us. But yeah. Did you want to respond to my thing? I kind of talked for a while.
No, offensive keys. I think I said the basics, just limiting turnovers, taking advantage of open shots.
I mean, that's kind of a key for like every game.
Yeah. So anything super specific applied to Denver? No, not really.
I can't really think of anything too specific, but I will say there is a specific thing that applies to Denver for my defensive key, sticking on the center point, locking up Nikola Jokic in the paint, because that's where he's most dominant. I think it's a pretty straightforward one, but Nikola Jokic, we'll get into MVP discussion later, could be the MVP of the NBA this year. And I mean, he's one of the best players. You could say he's a generational talent. He is a
generational talent. What are you talking about? He's the best passing center that has ever lived. Ever.
It's fair.
He is a generational talent.
I like that. All right. Well, yeah. I am agreeing with you. That's what I said. I was going to say you could say that, but yeah. I definitely agree with you on that.
I mean, Jokic he's just turned 27. He's already made 3 All-NBA teams. It's going to be a 4th.
He's 27. Oh God.
He's won the MVP last year. If he doesn't win this year, he's going to finish in the top 3. And he's already been a 4-time All-Star. I mean, you're looking at a guy that's going to finish with double-digit All-Stars and All-NBA teams, multiple probably top 5 MVP finishes, and he's only 27, and he's got Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. around him who can hopefully stay healthy. So he's going to be a force for a very long time.
And on that point of Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., and on that point of the best passing center, when you lock him up in the paint, he can't pass the ball.
What did you say? When you lock him at the paint,
when you lock him up in the paint, like let's say obviously he's good at passing the ball, but when he's in the paint, if he wants to pass the ball around, try to get out, the Warriors can lock him up there. He's stuck. He has to take a bad shot. He can't get it out of there. Usually he's smart doing that and stuff.
I see with Jokic, it's so difficult because if you're locking him up in the paint, I don't know if we have any guys one-on-one that can lock him up in the paint. Like
you're going to have to run. No, but I think you're going to have to run some sort of zone defense against Denver where you're going to have guys come back and forth to Jokic when he has that ball.
So here's the thing. I think what you need to do is, I think a key to defending Jokic is limiting double teams as much as possible, unless he's in a compromised position. When he's in a spot where maybe he's got his head away from the hoop and you can maybe bring a quick help. I think Draymond, Kuminga, and Juan Toscano Anderson are the 3 best candidates for this as big, long, strong forwards. Because Looney, I think, is going to be the guy who maybe Looney and Bielisa just as far as size to provide the most resistance of bulk. So you get that. Then once Jokic is probably in a position of 10, within 10 feet or in of the hoop, you try and blitz him quickly with the secondary guy. You cannot deliberately bring a double team against Nikola Jokic because he will shred you apart. He will find who's open 19 times out of 20. He's too good at that. So I think you need to be strategic and timely of when you blitz him and double team him.
That's fair. I definitely think I think personally, I think Nikola Jokic is going to cause. I think can we both agree that Nikola Jokic is going to cause a lot of problems for the Warriors?
I would be very surprised if he averages anything less than like 29, 13, and 8. Like that's a block for him. I feel like stats wise, he is. We finished 1-3 against Denver this year, and granted, 2 of those losses were 1-point losses, I believe, or single possession losses. And we didn't have Draymond, I think, for any of those games. But they pose a massive problem for us because Jokic is such a mismatch for us. He's so big.
Exactly.
He's so strong. He's so skilled. He can shoot. Anybody who's watching this knows how good Nikola Jokic is. I'm preaching to the choir on that. But he is. Oh, yeah, no, 100%. He and Joel Embiid probably are the 2 biggest mismatches for us in the entire NBA.
Easily.
Just because we're naturally just a smaller team. That's just
it's a small ball team. You're gonna need some guys to step up. Looney's gonna have to step up big time, and you're gonna have to. That's why I'm saying like double team, and that's kind of why I was saying lock up Jokic in the paint. I know you just have to somehow make him struggle like that, if that makes sense. Like I know he passes the ball when he's more outside of the paint, obviously, and he's good at that, and that's where he has his best vision. But when you're in the paint, sometimes you see centers get the ball in the paint and they don't have a shot for the layup because someone's locking them up and they pass it out. That's what Nikola Jokic can do if you don't lock him up in the paint. Somewhat.
One other just key defensive point. I think Draymond Green and Kevon Looney staying out of foul trouble as much as possible because I think those are going to be your 2 most valuable guys.
Kevon Looney specifically.
Looney specifically, because I think with Draymond, it's like obviously Draymond has the experience and the fundamental skills that guys like guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Juan Toscano Anderson don't have. But you can replace basically their body type with those 2 guys in a way. Those 2 guys aren't quite as strong and don't have the wingspan Draymond has, but they fill the similar role of being between 6'6" and 6'8", strong for their position. We don't really have a guy to replace Looney. Looney's backup on the depth chart is likely Bjelica, and I do not want Bjelica guarding Jokic. I want that to happen as little as possible.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think you got to keep those guys out of foul trouble. You got to make sure those guys are in the game as much as possible. And I think one thing, when Jokic comes out, Looney comes out. Make sure you save them out of foul trouble.
They have to mirror each other in minutes. I think Looney should not be playing any minutes in this game if Jokic is out. I think that's when,
exactly.
And that's just how it matches. I mean, like we said, playoffs happen, your best players play more minutes. I mean, Bjelica should be playing anywhere from, single-digit minutes to at most, 12 to 13. I mean, I highly doubt there's going to be many lineups where we're running Looney and Bjelica, so that's it. You got to mirror his minutes with Jokic as much as possible, unless he gets into foul trouble.
That simple. Now, I think we should move on to the big question of the series. Steph Curry. What's the deal with him? And you saw his injury update. What do you take away from that, Joel?
It's very vague. They gave us very little information. I am taking that as a good sign. I feel like it's a smokescreen. We want to give Denver as little information as possible. When asked in a press conference about Jordan Poole, in addition, Kerr was vague. I think all of us know that Poole's going to be playing heavy minutes. He's going to be a key part of this offense. And if Steph is not ready by game 1, I would be very surprised if he's not ready by game 2. I think Steph is, from what we've heard, he's back on the court. He's in shooting drills. He should be practicing with the team, coming up to this Saturday when the game is. I took it as a good sign, and that there isn't a setback or any, apparent negative news.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I definitely think, I think it's a good sign. But the thing is, if it's a smokescreen, they also could be going the other way. And true. I don't want to raise the pessimism level.
True. But I think it's all a play to give Denver as little concrete information as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. I think oh my God, sorry. I have my AirPods in, I have my text connected, and there's a chat just going off right now. But anyways, back to that point. I think overall, I think you got to make sure. Oh my God, I completely lost track of thought. I'm sorry. We're gonna take a quick little pause while I keep talking as I mute this chat. But I think the thing with Curry is here's the thing. If he plays game 1, then it doesn't matter. But if he doesn't play game 1, I'm gonna start to get a bit more pessimistic, because maybe it was a smokescreen to say, hey, he's good. Maybe it's definitely has to apply with Denver preparing and everything. But it also at the same time could also apply to maybe they want Denver to prepare for Steph Curry and not get Steph Curry, and maybe change their lineup and scheme a little bit.
True, but I think one thing that Denver is likely doing is they're probably going to bring a similar defensive approach either way. Because if let's just say Steph can't go game one, who's going to pretty much mirror Curry's minutes to a T? Jordan Poole.
Exactly.
And we've seen this in the last couple of games with Steph being out. Teams are guarding, especially with Poole on the hot streak that he's been on. He's only had one or two dud games in the last 20 or so games. Teams have been guarding Poole in not exactly the same way because, no player in the NBA is guarded the same way team guards Steph, but they guard him, 70 to 80% of the same capacity as the way they game plan for Steph.
Exactly.
Sending it early double teams, not, picking him up around half court like some guys do with Steph, but just him being the primary focus of the defense.
Absolutely. I think you just got to make sure he's in the game if you're the Warriors. Just get him back out there. It's the playoffs. I know he wants to be out there. I don't think there's much risk with this injury too much. I mean, you obviously have to take care of it, but the quicker you get him out there, the better. It's that simple. And I think we can move on to some series predictions. So I'll go first. I got the Warriors taking this in 6 games. And I think it's going to be – I think Denver's going to get one of the games from Golden State in the first 2 games. And I think the Warriors are going to come back and win either game 3 or 4 in Denver and then win out.
So you think we win a game 6 in Denver?
So I think we win a game 6 in Denver. I think we win 2 games in Denver.
You think we win 2 games in Denver? Yeah.
Just the way it's a playoff series. I know you're always like altitude and stuff. Like it's hard to win in Denver. Yes, it is. But I think when there's a chance they could be down 2-1. They could be down 1-1. They lose home court advantage. They're going to need to get that game back, and they're going to game plan for that. And you've seen Steph Curry and the Warriors do that before. I remember, 3-1 to OKC, the Houston series in 2018, the Houston series in 2019. Those are tough places to play, and they came in and won. Some of the best wins I've witnessed. I remember Game 6 of the Houston series in 2019 was so fun to watch.
Oh my God. The game where Steph went scoreless in the first half and then just erupted second half. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the conference semifinals that year.
Yep. That was I went to game 2 of that series. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, what you got for this, Joel?
I was on the edge. Denver scares me more than
They do.
I've seen most predictions similar to you, Warriors in 6. I am going to land in the same boat. I'm going to go Warriors in 6, but part of me was tempted to say Warriors in 7, but I'm going to say Warriors in 6.
I was so tempted to say Warriors in 7 too, but I think here's the thing. This is actually an interesting thing to say. Name a time besides after 2016, after the 3-1 loss to Cleveland, they went to 1 game 7, I'm pretty sure.
It was 2018 in Houston. I think that was the only game 7. Yeah. And we were on our way for game 7 if Clay didn't get hurt against Toronto.
And we were the underdogs.
Yeah.
Like, this team does not play many game 7s. They want to get it done as quick as possible.
We played a game 7 against the Clippers in 2014. And in 2015, we didn't go to any game 7s.
We went to 2015. We went
6 against Memphis. It was
we got 5. We swept New Orleans. 6 against Memphis. 5 against Houston. 6 against Cleveland.
6 against the Cavs, and then 7 OKC, and then but that was obviously before the 3.
That was 26. Yeah, no. We went and then 2016 we went 5-5-7-7.
So in our span of 2015 to 19, that's 3 7-game series. Not a ton of game 7. So that's really 4 with this core because adding the Clippers 1 where we lost. So exactly. Not a ton of game 7s. That's a good point. You were right.
Exactly. So overall, I think the Warriors will win this series, and it should be a very fun series to watch. And let's move on. Or go ahead. Do you want to say one more thing?
Yeah. Other points. I think when it comes to Denver and guarding Jokic, I think you really need to be. You need to pick and choose of which guys you're helping off of. I think the two that come to I mean not the two that come to mind are Jeff Green and Aaron Gordon, especially if they're on the perimeter. I think you just have to take your chances of letting them hit jump shots as opposed to letting
Yes,
Jokic
I
work
agree.
down low.
I think Aaron Gordon could be. I think the Warriors. It's funny with Aaron Gordon. I think the Warriors could make him a big piece by trying to make him a big piece for Denver, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think you just gotta. I think you kind of gotta you gotta focus on Jokic. You gotta focus on Jamal Murray. I think those are really the two guys you gotta focus on the most.
So, Jamal Murray's not playing.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he's out for the year.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, Jokic is the big one. I mean, I think. Yeah, I mean, Will Barton can score. Monte Morris can score. I mean, they have Jokic, and then they have Gordon, Barton, Morris, Jeff Green, Bones Highland. Those are all guys that can score. Granted, Bones Highland's a rookie and hasn't gotten a ton of playoff experience. And how long have they had Aaron Gordon? Was he?
He was 2021 trade deadline.
Yeah, so he's only really been in 2 playoff series with the Nuggets, so he's not really a seasoned. He had some early playoff series, I guess, with Orlando.
Yeah, he played with Orlando, but
yeah, but I think you just have to. I think you got to live your. I mean, you obviously you don't want to leave them open, but I think you really, especially in the terms of doubling off of to give them open shots. Not so much Barton and Morris because they're good shooters. And Bones Highland shot 36%, so, I mean, you got to be a little more wary of that. But Austin Rivers, not a very prolific shooter. Jeff Green, around 30%. Aaron Gordon, low 30s. I think you just got to live with those guys shooting more open threes as opposed to letting Jokic work.
Exactly. So, should be a fun series. Last part of this segment. We got a few minutes left. Season's over. Regular season's over, so that means MVP prediction time. I think it's between 3 guys, Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis. And here's my thing with Jokic. It's hard for me to pick a guy whose team finished as a 60 in the West. I think that's the hard part. But the thing is, Giannis and Embiid didn't finish with the highest seed ever, 3 and 4. Usually you're looking at 1 and 2 guy. But I'm going to go with Joel Embiid for this, I think. I know Jokic is the favorite, but I'm going to pick Joel Embiid.
You're picking Joel Embiid. Okay.
I think he's been the guy all along this year.
Okay.
And I think that consistency all season long gives him the upper edge over Jokic and Giannis.
So you're arguing it's Embiid for the sake of consistency?
Well, he's obviously played really well, but I think when you look at the entire season, he has played the best. If you take the entire season, you take all 82 games, he's played the best. If you take a certain 70 games, I think you could say Jokic or Giannis. But I think if you want to give an 82-game MVP, I am looking at Joel Embiid.
Yeah. I'm going to go with I don't think – I'm not saying Embiid as the pick is a hot take because I think a lot of people are arguing for Embiid. I think you could really make an honestly concrete argument for any of the 3. I believe Giannis has the best record. Embiid led the league in scoring, and Jokic did what Jokic did. My pick is Jokic simply because of this. I think Jokic had by far the least of those 3 candidates, and I think he did the most with the least. His 2 co-stars played a combined 9 games this year. Jamal Murray was out the whole year. Porter Jr. played 9 games before, succumbing to the back injury. Jokic averaged 27, 14, and 8. I mean, he dragged the team. I mean, here's what if you're having like a draft of every single team's, 2 through 10 as far as their guys, like their second best player all the way down to their 10th, basically every other team's rotation guys. Denver's rotation guys are in the bottom, third of the league. It's not very inspiring. Aaron Gordon's cool. Barton, Monte Morris, Jeff Green, these are okay players. I mean, these are ideal. I mean, Gordon's an NBA starter, but Monte Morris and Will Barton and those guys, I mean, those are 6th, 7th men on most teams. These guys have to start and play 30-plus minutes for the Nuggets. I mean, and Jokic led them to a 6th seed. He were 48 and 34. I mean, Embiid and the 76ers, I mean, they had a very comparable record. I think Philly this year went, so Denver won 48 games. What did Philly win? I feel like it was very similar.
Philly won
51.
51. It's
No,
close.
yeah. So it's close. And then, Embiid played 68 games. Jokic played 74. I mean, it's really, really close.
It's going to be a close call in the end.
Here's another thing, and it's not the best argument, and it's been used in the past, but I think that it is a valid argument in this case because it's so close. Because you have three generational talents. Giannis, in my opinion, is already an all-time guy. I think he's the top 30, 25 player ever after his finals last year. Embiid, I mean, what Embiid has been doing to teams that are undersized, I mean, it's late 90s, early Shaq-esque in terms of him just eating people up. Jokic, like I said, he's already, in the conversation of top 5 European players ever. He's the best passing center ever, in my opinion. And, it's just, you've got 3 generational guys in their peak or near their peak. So this stuff all comes down to, so this stuff's all really close. My main thing is, if you swapped Embiid and Jokic, do you think that that Denver is in the same spot they are now? My answer is honestly no. My answer is honestly no, and I think Philly is at the same spot, if not slightly better.
That's a good point. That's fair enough. I think it's close.
Look, if you're a Philly fan, or if you're you, and if you're a Buck fan, or if you're a Giannis guy, which, I mean, look, you know that I'm one of the biggest Giannis guys there is, and for a stretch, I thought that he was the sleeper pick, and then I thought, he rested some games / Milwaukee kind of tanked the last couple of games to get out of playing Brooklyn, which I don't blame them for. I would want to play Brooklyn first round, but I think that really did, have a pretty big dent in Giannis's MVP candidacy. But I would just say Denver solely because I think Jokic did the most with the least, and I think that if you put the other leading candidate, which I believe is Embiid, if I had a ballot, I would go Jokic first, Embiid second, Giannis third. I just think that he's the guy.
Fair enough. Definitely a heated debate. It'll be interesting to see the results, which I believe come out very soon. But coming up after this long segment, talking about the Oakland Athletics, baseball season is in full swing. Dick and I are going to break down their series against the Phillies and preview their series against the Rays. You guys will not want to miss it. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Segment 2 on episode 11 of the Corcoran Cap. Just had a long basketball segment. Now moving on to talk about the Oakland Athletics. I'm your host, Sam Corcoran. And Jake, opening weekend, baseball is finally in full swing. How you feel about that?
I feel great. And honestly, the A's performed as good as I could have expected.
Which is 1 and 2 for the record. I mean, we're not expecting much.
Honestly, though, they were in all 3 games. It was competitive.
That is true.
I was able to sit there and watch all the games and not just want to turn it off and go do something else, which is an improvement.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a guy who usually usually if I'm doing work at night, that's what I've been doing. Just doing work, putting the radio next to me. That's what I did all Sunday. Just listen to the radio, put my speaker on. It was so nice just hearing that. But yeah, the A's took on the Phillies this weekend in Philadelphia, lost the first 2 games, but got their first win on Sunday. And we thought we should just go through some studs and duds, kind of highlight some key moments of the series that really stood out. And I think a lot of this comes from Sunday because that's really where the A's shine. They won on Sunday 4-1. Other than that, they lost the other 2 games. So I just want to start off with the star of Sunday. In my opinion, the player of the game was Dalton Jeffries. He didn't pitch much, only 5 innings, 48 pitches, which is it was definitely – so I guess it was because people were assuming it's because of the cold. He's had some injury history before, didn't want to mess up that arm. It was definitely a gutsy call to pull him out with the heart of the lineup coming up. But they put in lefty Sam Maul, who I also put him as a stud because that was, I mean, just getting through Schwarber, Segura, and Harper, 1, 2, 3 like that, striking out 2 of the 3, the 2 better players of the 3, Schwarber and Harper, was great. But 38 strikes out of 48 pitches. That could be wrong, actually. It might be 30 instead of 40. I feel like I put it the other way.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's 30. It's 30 out of 48, which is still really good. Overall, I mean, he is probably the reason. I mean, the Phillies got 1 run all game, and that came on a home run towards the end of the game. And I want to talk about the bullpen later, but Dalton Jeffries was the star of the game.
Yeah, I mean, he looked great. He just looked super sharp. He was hitting his spots, and he has so much movement, even on his fastball. He was never even in a jam, and I think the pitch count really just shows that the best. And like I even after the game, I put $1 on Dalton Jeffries to win Rookie of the Year. I was like, I want to be able to watch him. I mean, 1 to win 60. I was in. But yeah, no, he's going to be exciting, and I liked him coming out of Cal. He was honestly, he looked better than his numbers showed last year when he came in, especially in that one start. I think he played Texas and he got the win.
Yeah.
He just he looked confident coming into every game, and especially coming after, I don't know if you remember this, but 2 years ago, he made a random start when we had a bunch of injuries on our starting rotation, and he got absolutely shelled.
Was this against like Seattle?
It was also against Texas. But he gave up 7 runs in 1 1/3 innings. It was
he wasn't ready for MLB at the time.
But he looks ready now and definitely confident.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, Dalton Jeffries, in my opinion, has to be the player of the game. And a close second was Tony Kemp. Tony Kemp 3 for 5. I mean, Tony Kemp, in my opinion, just did a phenomenal job all year. I'll keep talking while Jake goes out real quick. But last year, he was one of my favorite players to watch. This year, especially, I love Tony Kemp a lot. 3 for 5 on Sunday. He's been on base every game of the series. Got an RBI, 2 RBI Sunday with that double, or it was a double, I think, which scored Pache and Austin Allen. But Tony Kemp, in my opinion, had a great series. Jake and I were going back and forth. Should Tony Kemp be starting? Should he not be starting? And this is exactly why I think Tony Kemp should be an everyday starter on this roster.
Yeah, one of my good or beneficial players in the first series was Lowry, honestly, because I would rather see him out there than Kemp, to be honest. As good as Kemp is, and he's a much better fielder, don't get me wrong, and he's going to be our starting second baseman, but hitting at the plate, he just he doesn't ever look like he's going to hit a home run or hit a he's swatting the ball and praying that it kind of floats.
I mean, he's a contact hitter.
Yeah.
And maybe I like him because when I was in high school, I kind of hit like him. I just have no power. I just kind of swat the ball. You kind of described my high school batting career perfectly. But anyways, I'll let you continue.
No, but I mean, Jed Lowry is the guy. Jed Lowry and Austin Allen were my 2 biggest takeaways from the offensive side, where they came up and I wasn't sure about both of them. I mean, Lowry, it was kind of once again, he's a year older. Is he the same guy? And Austin Allen has looked pretty meh in the past, especially with Langeliers and Murphy also being on the roster, or also being there and younger. It was kind of up in the air whether Allen was going to make an impact, but he came in and he worked some great at-bats yesterday. He had specifically one where it was a 1-2 count, and he fouled off a couple pitches, and then he worked a walk. I just think he looked really good. And obviously Lowry came out, and I think he was 2 for 5 or something in the series, but he
only played on Saturday and pinch hit 1 at bat on Friday. I will just say that
both these guys just played 1 game for the most part, but I just thought that they came up and they looked like they were ready for the challenge.
Exactly. And I also will say Jed Lowry is not in the lineup tonight either. So interesting to watch.
I don't really know where they're looking for his spot.
They're putting Steven Vogt over Jed Lowry tonight. Designated hitter.
Well, Vogt hasn't gotten a start yet, has he?
No, he hasn't. I guess that could be why. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm definitely a bit more high on Tony Kemp. I also think Lowry can be. We saw him play first. We saw him play second, short, DH. Same with Kemp. Kemp can really do it all. Second, left field, DH if you really want to. Pinch run, pinch hit. I think I was telling Jake, I think his running ability is really what stands out to me, because Lowry doesn't really have that. And I think that gives Kemp the upper edge, because I know base running is not talked about much in baseball, but when you have a good base runner on base, you can score runs. Just flashback to the 2014 wildcard game. The Royals had 2 phenomenal base runners and pinch rate. Yeah, Gore, man. It was Dyson who stole the base and then got scored on that. Dave Roberts, that changed the franchise. So, yeah, I mean, I think the base running is a big thing. But anyways, another versatile player I want to talk about, I think you'll agree with me on this, Seth Brown. We've been typing it up a lot, and I'll let you talk about Seth Brown a little bit.
I mean, Seth Brown, I know he hit the home run, and he had kind of a weird like single flare out. He was
opened up the score Sunday.
He was on my negative list. He had
really
so many completely awful at bats where it was like any off speed pitch, he was Jack Cust golf swinging it over. And yeah, he made contact with one and he hit it out. But I mean, he had so many at bats where it was like, holy shit, man, like hit the ball, just try and make contact, work something in the count. And I understand where you could see some positives, but watching guys like, I think like Piscotty looked much more confident. He looked more like the guy we saw when he had that, 25 home run, 90 RBI season 2 or 3 years ago, finally getting over some of those injuries. And maybe even Pache looked really awful in the first game, but he started to hit the ball much harder in the second and third game and looked more confident swinging the bat.
Yeah. Also, I just want to point something out really quickly. This has nothing to do with the game. The Rays are starting 8 left-handed batters against Paul Blackburn. Some of them are switched.
They must have some scouting report on Paul Blackburn that is very negative.
Interesting. Yeah, they have the one guy who's a right-hander hitter is Yandy Diaz.
Wait, isn't Wanderer
switched?
That's what I was like. He definitely has hit righty in the past.
Yeah, no, they're all switch guys. Or lefties, but that's interesting. I just saw the lineup. I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, Seth, I think my thing with Seth Brown is I thought he looked really good at first base. I know I think defensively he didn't mess up really any time, so I'll take that. You also had, I mean, I think you have to account for 4 RBIs. I know some of his at-bats were not that good, but a 3-run home run got us back in the game on Friday. On Sunday, he opened up the score. That's our first lead of the season, I believe. So I have to give some props to that. He usually, I mean, all your baseball coaches will tell you hits are contagious, runs are contagious. When you can open up the scoring, it gives you a big advantage in baseball. And I think the fact that he did that and got us back in the game is why I'm putting him on there.
Yeah, I mean that I definitely see where you're coming from. There were so many times when I struggled watching him, and especially that's like one of the big negative takeaways as a team that I had was the strikeouts. I mean, 31 strikeouts in 3 games, and
yeah, that was not that great.
He wasn't really the biggest culprit. One of the other guys that I thought was probably the worst player on the team, Kevin Smith.
Oh, yeah, he was bad. They're starting they got Noisy at third tonight.
It wasn't just that he struck out a lot. It was just like he did not hit the ball hard. Like he had a couple flyouts that looked really deep because we're in Philly, but you have to remember that the A's wall is 20 feet back in right field and left field. Like those are not warning track shots in Oakland, and he's going to have to compact his swing, try and figure out how to get on base if he wants to stay in this lineup because he had 6 strikeouts, Murphy had 5 strikeouts, Pinder had 5 strikeouts. That's not something that we can accept going forward.
No hits this entire weekend, 6 strikeouts in total, 2 each game. Not good. And there's a reason why Sheldon Noisy is in lineup tonight, batting 8th. So, yeah, it's not a good start for him if he wants to try and prove himself to the Oakland A's. And let's talk about the bullpen. I know I mentioned them earlier, but I thought this bullpen was phenomenal this weekend. On Friday, they gave up Friday was a bit rough, I will say. Every bullpen guy gave up a run or 2. Friday was a bit rough.
Friday was Lemoyne, Sneed, and Acevedo, right?
Exactly. It was Lemoyne, Sneed, Acevedo. Not the best. Saturday was Jimenez, Puck, and Jackson. No hits allowed, 3 strikeouts, and Puck especially 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. I loved what I saw from AJ Puck on Saturday. I thought that was phenomenal. Sunday, I think the bullpen did even better. I know they gave up a run. That was the Gene Segura home run. You had 5 strikeouts, no hits from anyone besides Trevino, and lots of strikes being thrown. So I really love to see that from Friday. And Kirby Snead, after a very rough start on Friday, where he gave up 3 hits and 2 earned runs, 7-pitch inning, 4 of them strikes.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a 3.07 ERA through the first series, and I know it's a small sample size, but I mean, still, the starters were able to go 5 innings, and the bullpen kept it competitive, especially in the latter 2 games, like you said. AJ Puck was the name that I wrote down for a guy who looked confident and looked like he was actually dominating the other hitters, where it was kind of a struggle for some of the guys, especially if you look at a guy like Kirby Snead, who not even in that second game, he did get hit hard, even though he did have that 7-pitch inning. And then also another guy like Acevedo, who was, I know we talked about him in the preseason where I was kind of excited about him, and he did come out and get 4 strikeouts in 2 innings, which is kind of like his thing, but he needs to learn to accept some contact because he got into some trouble with the walks and just long ABs and long innings the A's can't have, especially with pretty subpar defense is what I would consider it. Other than Kemp and Pache, it was kind of a struggle.
Yeah, it's not the best defensive performance. I think Pache looked very good. I know you said his hat kept falling off. I mean, I saw the highlights and everything. I listened to the game on the radio on Sunday, and where his hat, that was where the hat kept falling off, really. So that was all for that. But yeah, I think overall, I will say it's a good series. And I want to talk about Mark Kotsay for a sec, because I really thought he did a great job managing the pitchers, in my opinion. And that's like the key thing you need to do as a manager. He gave the guys the pitch count when they kind of got roughed up with mainly hits. He didn't really focus on the runs. He focused on the hits. When they kind of got roughed up with those hits, that's when it kept going, and the walks as well. It was definitely a very gutsy call to pull out Dalton Jeffries, as I said. But you know what? It worked out. You put a lefty to face 2 lefties in Schwarber and Harper. Guy strikes those out, Sam Maul. So overall, I definitely am very happy with Mark Kotsay's performance. And I think hopefully this can continue on for the rest of the season and maybe years to come.
Yeah, I do think he did a good job with the pitchers, but the lineups have seemed, I know he doesn't have a ton to work with, but they've seemed kind of odd to me. Like, especially just, let's take today's lineup. Billy McKinney did not, I know he had that kind of weird home run where, again, like that does not go out in Oakland.
Yeah.
Where it was kind of, he hit it sky high and it landed right beyond the fence. But he's hitting third today and playing first base. And
yeah,
I know you don't have a lot of guys who can play first, but I would rather see Seth Brown or Jed Lowry in that spot. And maybe he proves me wrong, but McKinney really he did not look confident in any of his other ABs. And I know he finally got that hit and he hit that home run, but I think that was his only hit. I'm maybe mistaken on that, but
I'm looking right now. He did not play on Saturday. Friday, he went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. Sunday, he went 1 for 3 with that home run. So he's only had a small sample size. Maybe that's why they're giving him another chance, because he didn't get a chance on Saturday.
Yeah. I hope he proves me wrong, but I would like to see more of the dual catcher, and I think they are doing that today because Murphy's behind the dish and Vogt is DHing, because I do like Austin Allen, I like Stephen Vogt, I like Sean Murphy, and at least give all the guys a chance in the rotation before we call Langeliers up, because that's going to be soon, because Langeliers and
Nick Allen,
and then also the guy they just DFA'd.
Luis Barrera. Yeah, that was an interesting call. I bet they might take him off the 40. I would think they'd take him off the 40 and keep him, unless something happened.
Yeah, they I don't know. They definitely, I just got the DFA thing during this. But I think the 3 of them are probably soon for the majors. And then you look at a guy like Zach Giloff I know he's still in AA, but he is absolutely killing it. And he's on a meteoric rise. He is up to our 3rd prospect right now. And if he keeps killing it, he could be a August type guy with our lack of third base.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot to come for the A's. It's interesting to see what Kotsay is going to do. Especially with, I think, Stephen Vogt's guy, because I don't know if he's going to be catching this year. I think you're looking at DH first base. He's really reaching those twilight years. This could be his last year in the MLB. So, and honestly, I mean, I hate to say it, but when Langeliers comes up, someone's going to have to make room on this. I think it's 25-man roster, active roster on the A's.
It's 26 right now, and it's going to expand to 28. I think it May 1st.
So, okay, so it'll be expanding soon. But, yeah, they're going to have to figure out who
we're not carrying 4 catchers. That's all I'm saying.
No, you can't carry 4 catches. I think Vogt might be the guy out because I like Austin Allen. I think Vogt's kind of aging. I think you keep 3, not 4. And I definitely think Austin Allen, I think Stephen Vogt could be the odd guy out of that.
I mean, this is the type of thing where we see a Sean Murphy trade or something where there's just too many guys we want on the starting roster, and I don't know how you cut Vogt at this point. Like, and I haven't seen him behind the dish, but they were talking. Dallas was saying that he talked to him, and he's like, "Oh, this is the best I've felt behind the plate in years. Like, I'm perfectly happy to step back there." So we'll have to see.
We'll have to see. Lots to come up for the A's. Big week this week. Blue Jays, Rays, going to be a fun week. Coming up, segment number 3, talking about the 49ers. A bit of drama in the organization. Deebo Samuel got some cryptic messages on social media. Rohit and I are going to break it down and also talk a bit more free agency, a bit more offseason. You guys will not want to miss out. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Segment 3 on episode 11 of the Corcoran Cap, talking about the San Francisco 49ers. I'm your host, Sam Corcoran. Rohit, we're starting to enter a little bit of a dead period for the NFL. Not many signings going on. Draft buzz kind of on the low right now. It'll start to pick up soon, but lots of buzz within the 49ers locker room about Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, we kind of saw this happen with Fred Warner and George Kittle over the past 2 seasons. There were rumblings about, like, hey, are they going to get a new contract, or are they going to get traded? And then by the time preseason rolled around, I mean, they inked their contracts. So, I mean, there's plenty of time. This is April. We're only in April. Preseason doesn't start until another 4 months. So we have plenty of time between now and then. But it also means there's also plenty of time between now and then for, like, some other stuff to pop up. But personally, I'm not overly concerned. I have faith that the Niners will get it done. They've done a good job of keeping their big talent in-house, and I think they'll continue to do that.
Exactly. And speaking of other stuff that popped out, before we get more into Deebo Samuel, let's talk about the 2 signings that we got yesterday. 2 wide receivers, Marcus Johnson and Malik Turner. So Marcus Johnson was with the Tennessee Titans last year. Malik Turner's with the Cowboys. And I know that Seahawks clip went viral about him, but I think Malik Turner, you're probably looking for, maybe this is your Trent Sherfield replacement. Maybe this is the diamond in the rough Trent Sherfield guy that they're looking for. We haven't seen the Niners really do this with wide receivers throughout the years. They got Sherfield last year, and maybe Malik Turner's their guy for this year. Someone who has experience within the division, within the NFC. It could work out like this. Marcus Johnson, though, I want to talk about him a little bit because not many people are talking about him, and I get why. He doesn't really play that much. Nobody really knows who he is. He did not play much for Tennessee last year. Was with Indy. He's kind of bounced around the league, and I believe 4 years. But an interesting stat, nearly 80%, I tweeted this out yesterday, nearly 80% of Johnson's receptions were for first downs. Last year, he had 9 receptions, 7 of them were for first down. His yards per reception career high is 16.5. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. So no, I read that wrong. No, he has for his career, his average yards per reception are 16.5. That says something, in my opinion, Rohit. And maybe, he might not be the best receiver. We've never heard of him. But you know what? That could provide a valuable asset for now. You had a run for a system with Garoppolo. Now you're going to open it up for Lance, pass a bit more probably. And maybe, Lance has the arm strength. Maybe this is a deep ball threat that they can get going, and maybe they can work some things out for him. So I'm excited to see what they do with Marcus Johnson. I don't know too much about him. Obviously, I haven't really watched much film on him because there's not much film on him. But overall, I think this is a good signing, and I think they're very low key signings. I think more people are more excited about Malik Turner, but I think Marcus Johnson, keep an eye on him. That's all I'll say.
I mean, what's interesting about this is that let's look at Raven McLeod too. Like that's our 3 wide receiver signings for this offseason. All 3 have completely different skill sets, completely different strengths and weaknesses. McLeod was obviously brought in to be our special teams guy. He has also some experience at running back. He's going to be a bit more of a special teamer, Swiss Army knife kind of guy. Malik Turner has some good route running. He's shifty in the open field. I mean, you saw that all the time, even with Dallas. When he got the ball in his hands, he made some guys miss. And then obviously with Marcus Johnson, I think that's his name. Right?
Yeah, Marcus Johnson.
Yeah, Marcus Johnson. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. I always have been. So it's like
you're good.
Yeah, but with Marcus Johnson again, average yards per reception, 16.5. He's your big chunk play guy, kind of similar to how we've kind of used Kendrick Bourne and Juwan Jennings, the guy you go to just to move the chains. Maybe he's in that type of situation, but at the same time, that yards per reception is impressive. So maybe he has a more abilities that we don't even know of. Maybe he truly is a deep threat that we could play opposite of Ayuk, really open the outside thirds of the field even more.
Yeah, and maybe he hasn't gotten that much of a chance yet. I know he was on Tennessee. That's a run first team. He was on Indianapolis. I know they didn't have many receivers, but that was also the Phillip Rivers year where they've really kind of struggled a lot in the passing game. If I look at his stats real quick, I'm pulling it up. So he was with Philly, Indy, and Tennessee. In 2020, he played in 11 games, started in 3 of them. And he only has 3 career touchdowns, I will say, but he's known for getting first downs. His long receptions, for the past 3 years, his longest reception has been 50 yards, 55 yards, and 50 yards. I don't see a yak stat. That also could be something maybe why they signed him. I don't see a yak stat. Maybe I'll have to go I'll go into advanced stats and look at that. But it could be a guy who could sneak up on this depth chart. We don't have too much receiver depth now. I know we kind of were feeling set last year. This year it's a bit different. We don't have many rookies on this team. We didn't draft a wide receiver last year. And the one young guy who everyone was kind of hyping up was Jalen Hurd. And obviously he's no longer on this team.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just about making sure we got the right guys because we're moving forward with Lance. So these might be some guys, they might just be depth pieces, but at the same time, these could be guys who we could probably turn into some solid receivers. They probably could turn into some first down machines. They probably end up with season with probably like 20, 22 receptions for about 400 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Like, that's not completely out of the question.
Yeah, definitely 2 great signings. And last thing I'm going to say on this, I want to get to Deebo as well, obviously. Yards at yak per reception for Marcus Johnson, 4.7 in 2018, 2.5 2019, 3.5 2020, 10.6 last year. That was only on 9 receptions, though, I will say. So that's a very limited sample size, but maybe they could work something out with him. I don't know. I'm going to keep an eye on him throughout training camp. Do I think he's going to make this roster? Probably not. But now that the practice squad's been opened up for the past few years, I think you could see a practice squad player right here.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to what everyone's been talking about this week. Deebo Samuel, the drama concerning him. Seems like he wants 25 mil. He wants to be the highest non-paid quarterback. There's a lot of drama going on. Rohit, I mean, do you blame him for this personally? I don't. I don't blame him at all. If he wants money, give him the money. He proved himself last year that he is a $20 million player, in my opinion. I know people are saying he's not, but let's be real. He is a $20 million player in his eyes, and he has all the leverage. Because here's the thing. You either sign him for what he wants or you don't, or he leaves. Because the Niners can also go sign guys like Nick Bosa, and we're going to talk about Nick Bosa in a sec as well. But Deebo Samuel has all the leverage here. He's a pivotal piece, probably the most important piece to the 49ers offense. So you know that they have to get him on this team if they want to keep winning. So he has all the leverage here. And it's an unfortunate situation for the 49ers, but if I'm Deebo Samuel, I'm doing the exact same thing.
3 words. I got 3 words.
Let's hear it.
Get your bag. I don't care. Get your bag. And Deebo's proven it. He can throw the ball. I mean, we've seen him throw a touchdown. This man.
Get that bag.
Right.
We're clipping that.
We have to clip that. I mean,
but yeah.
He can throw the ball. We've seen him throw a touchdown pass. He's obviously one of the best receivers in football. He's absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. He can run the damn ball. So, I mean, we basically created a new market for him. He's a wide back. But
exactly.
But honestly, just for some context, I know there's just for some context, just with everything. Even when you look at the top running back salaries, you got Ezekiel Elliott at around what? Like his cap hit this year is $18 million. Even he's getting roughly, he's got $50 million guaranteed on a 6-year, $90 million deal. And that's as a running back, mind you. And that's the highest paid. Now when you look at wide receivers, the highest cap hit for a wide receiver this season, Kenny Golladay at $21 million. I'm sorry, if Kenny Golladay is getting $21 million, I do not blame Deebo for wanting 25. Even though,
yeah, I mean,
if a guy like
and Chris, even like
21.
I think. And speaking of like over,
Christian Kirk broke everything. Christian Kirk broke.
I was gonna say Christian Kirk really ruined the wide receiver market for a lot of people. So I don't blame Deebo Samuel one. Exactly. I don't blame Deebo Samuel one bit for wanting this. He is the most valuable player on the 49ers and one of the most valuable players in the league. Yeah.
Like, okay, let's look at this. Okay. With the Christian Kirk contract. 4 years, $72 million. He got $20 million as a signing bonus, $37 total guaranteed, with an average salary of $18 million. And that's for Christian Kirk. That's the money for a guy who, over his career, has 2,900 receiving yards.
Yeah.
With a career high of 982 in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous for him. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think I don't blame Deebo Samuel for wanting money around him. Deebo Samuel knows that he is better than Christian Kirk. Most receivers know that they are better than Christian Kirk. And I think the 49ers, the expectation was they were going to have to pay over $20 million. It's just rough because right now it's not only Deebo Samuel, it's Nick Bosa. And I tweeted this out today.
I mean, we can get there, but like I just want to look at more of the numbers because we still got
go ahead for sure.
So according to SpotTrack has a feature called calculated market value. Do you know what Christian Kirk's calculated market value is?
What is it?
$11.8 million.
That's better. That's a bit higher than I expected. I was thinking like $9 million.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But come on. And this man's getting $18 million. You got Devontae Adams, who, after getting traded to the Raiders, signed a 5-year, $140 million contract that has $65 million total guaranteed, with an average salary of around $28 million.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and Devontae Adams has been one of the most prolific wide receivers in the NFL for almost the past decade. Mm-hmm. You're looking at a guy who has career year totaling 2021, and has had over 800 yards every year since 2016. 997, 885, 1,386, 997, 1374, 1553. He is prolific. He is worth the money.
Yeah, he's worth the money in Deebo Sam.
Yeah, that's Stephon Diggs.
Exactly. All the receivers are going to start getting paid, and they're all worth this money. And I think the thing with the 49ers is were you going to say something else?
Yeah, I got one more. And with Stephon Diggs, you got 4 years, $96 million. But here's the kicker. Total guaranteed money, $70 million.
And the Niners should probably give something. It's tough to give that much guaranteed money away to a guy who struggled in 2020 with injury. There was some injury history there, but maybe they're trying to move on from that. I think the Niners' injury history has always been so unfortunate. Last year we kind of did catch a pretty good break from it, but still, it's like it's interesting to see what the Niners are. I think the guaranteed money is going to be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, because you got Christian Kirk, who has total guaranteed of $37 million. Devontae Adams having total guarantee of around $65 million. And Stephon Diggs having total guarantee around $70 million.
Exactly,
I think at minimum, Deebo's going to want somewhere around $50 million total guaranteed.
That seems really reasonable in my opinion. And I definitely think the thing with the Deebo Samuel thing, like people might be asking, why are the 49ers just signing him now? Get him in. You also have to extend Nick Bosa.
Exactly.
And I tweeted this out. Who would you rather have on this team? You have to trade one. You have to keep one. Deebo Samuel or Nick Bosa. It's a tough call, man. I think I'm going to go. I think you have a quarterback for the future. You have an offensive-minded head coach. I'm trading Nick Bosa, and I think you can get more value for Nick Bosa as well.
I hate that you're putting me on the spot like this, but
I know you love both players, Rohit. I had to do this.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I have to trade Deebo because here's the thing. Yes, we have the young quarterback. Yes, we have an offensive-minded head coach. However, this team is built from both trenches, and we have and Nick Bosa, in my opinion, is a generational talent, and I do not want to give up that type of generational talent along the trenches.
You're gonna have you have to get at least like 2 or 3 first-round picks for him.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like there's no guarantee that any of those 3 first-round picks can even become even half of what Bosa is.
Exactly. Because you're gonna I think, but I mean Bosa's generational talent. I just think my thing is Deebo fits the system more. And yes, generational talents like work, especially on the defensive line. But Chris Kuceric knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
and that could be another factor.
What you value more? I think it's a question of what you value more. If a guy values trenches more, they're going to go with Bosa. If you value offensive versatility, you're going to go with Deebo. It's just a matter of what you personally value.
Yeah, other thing that could work.
Opposite directions.
Other thing that could work. I know.
I'm going with the trenches.
Fair enough. Other than that could work. I know Brandon Ayuk was compared to Deebo Samuel coming out of college.
I mean, I don't think
why not?
Has I don't think Brandon Ayuk has like the physicality or the build to like take care of like the running back live like Deebo can.
Yeah, he'd have to get that. It's going to be interesting. He has the vision of a running back though. That's what a lot of people said.
But Ayuk is electric with the ball in his hands. He has vision. He can move in space. He has excellent route running. But
exactly,
Deebo allows you to do more. So that's I think they make a really good tandem. But I just want to get both of them under contract, man.
Yeah, gotta lock those guys up. And you coming up next year too. That's another thing. You got a ton of contracts coming up, so you're gonna have to get these done.
I mean, the good news is with guys like Bosa and Ayuk, keep in mind they were first-round picks, meaning you can use a 5th-year option and at least buy yourself another year.
That is true.
Contract discussions.
Yes,
I think you can do that. You can't do that with Deebo. He's a 2nd-round pick. He doesn't get that first-round option. He doesn't get the 5th-round 5th-year option that you get with a first-round pick.
Exactly. 2 picks off from being a first rounder. And now they're going to have to deal with this. They're going to have to deal with it this offseason. Should be a very interesting time before the draft. See if they get it done. After the draft, we'll see what happens. But coming up, the final segment of episode 11, talking about Syracuse basketball, our final Syracuse basketball segment on this season. Recapping the season, recapping everything that went on, and a little bit of preview for next season. You guys will not want to miss out. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Segment 4 on episode 11 of the Corcoran Cap. Finally talking about Syracuse again. It's been a minute. We kind of focused on March Madness, focusing on all of that. Now we're back to Syracuse. I'm your host, Sam Corcoran. And Zach, obviously Syracuse basketball did not make March Madness, but, we got to look back at the season. It was definitely an interesting one, probably the worst in Jim Boeheim's career. But I think there's a lot to look ahead to, and I think we should just review the season, preview everything. How you feel about that?
Yeah, there's always next season to look forward to.
Exactly. I think that's a good thing with college basketball is there's always room for change, and you can see obviously dramatic changes every year. Some teams that were awful are going to be some of the best teams in the nation and vice versa. So I always love to see that. But let's just jump right into it. Obviously, it was a very rough season for Syracuse. We went, I think, 16-17. It was a losing record, the first ever in Jim Boeheim's 46 years. And I think it's good to start off with what went wrong for Syracuse. And I think I should just start with the obvious one, Jesse Edwards' injury. I think, obviously, it's kind of a lame excuse to say the injury caused a lot of harm during the season because the team could have stepped up. But in reality, Jesse Edwards was such a pivotal part to the team. And I remember Boeheim said it on First Take that the season was going well. They were having a good streak. And then Edwards got hurt, and that's when it really all collapsed. Now, Frank Anselm's transferring the program. I think that makes a lot of sense because, you saw him really struggle under Boeheim. They didn't seem to click really, and I think he needs a new system. But overall, I think Jesse Edwards' injury, they're going to be lucky to have him back next year because that was a pivotal part missing. And you probably would have been a team like Duke in that ACC tournament game if you had a guy like Jesse Edwards. There are some other close games. UNC, I bet you can win. What else? Miami, you're probably going to win. There's a ton of other games. Syracuse could have finished with a winning record, in my opinion, if they had Jesse Edwards, and could have made a pretty decent run at the tournament.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. I think we definitely would have won more games, but you can't discount that we had a really slow start to the season. I mean, you lost to Colgate, you lost to Pitt. There's some pretty bad losses this season. You blew a couple leads to Miami, and obviously a few of those you have to take into account the Jesse Edwards injury. And Frank Edslem, I saw him this morning, still on campus. He's still looking for his next place to be. Yeah. But
he walked by me right when I saw the news of him transferring, which was really funny. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, he's not Jesse Edwards, obviously. We were ranting and raving about him all season, and then he went down. But yeah, obviously, as pivotal of a loss as that is, you can't start the season like Syracuse did. Obviously, we beat some very low level competition, but then we lose to Colgate, who was a tournament team. You lose to Georgetown. 19 straight losses in their conference. That's a terrible
Georgetown
loss.
Probably was the worst loss of the season, in my opinion.
You lose to Pitt. These are all unexcusable. So I don't care who's on your team. You still have Joe Girard. You still have Buddy Boeheim. You still have Jimmy Boeheim. You still have Cole Swider. Your 4-star, almost a 5-star recruit, Benny Williams. You should be winning these games.
Yeah, you absolutely should. And I mean, you look at the schedule, I would actually say, it was a very inconsistent season. They're kind of scattered all across the board. And it sucks because right after the Pitt game, they should have won those games, first of all. Yes, if that's what you're talking about, a rough start, they absolutely should. Right after the Pitt game, you had 4 straight wins, and then Edwards goes down, and then you really kind of collapse. But yes, it was definitely a slow start. And I think a key reason to the slow start, and this is something that kind of hindered us throughout the year, is Syracuse could not close games at all. The Georgetown game, they won. We talk about the race to 69 all the time, where the team who gets 69 points first usually wins. And they won that, lost to Georgetown. They couldn't close it out against Villanova, could not close that out against VCU. Virginia couldn't close it out. Miami, Wake Forest, Florida State, Pitt. There's so many other games. I could go on and on. Notre Dame, UNC, second Miami game, Duke game. You were behind, so I won't really count that. But overall, this team just needs to do better at closing out games. And I think that's something they have to do next year if they want to be successful. And that's what most teams have to do. You see this in March Madness. The teams who win are the best at closing out games. Kansas, when UNC started to come back, they kind of took them down. They came back themselves. They closed out the game. And they did that all throughout the tournament. And that's why they're the national champions. And that's why Syracuse didn't make the tournament.
Yeah. You got to close out games. You're 100% right on that. And I think that kind of takes us into what we're going to talk about next and what went well for Syracuse. And
I just want to say one more thing about what went wrong. The lack of depth was very rough throughout the year, I think.
Well, yeah. You have 3 guys coming off the bench for most of the year. Edwards goes down. You have, you could throw Deebo in there or Bolajok, but you really have Torrance and Betty coming off the bench. Betty went down late. You have no depth on that team. Next year is going to be a little bit different. But
yes.
I'm going to defer to you on what went well because I really haven't thought this out. I don't aside from guys who are graduating or leaving, who we're going to touch on in a bit. I don't know what you could possibly say went well. Joe Girard had a fine shooting year. That's all I can take out of here.
I will say Joe Girard, I think one thing that we saw from Joe Girard that I think worked really well, it will translate to next season because he will be the starting shooting guard next season, not point guard. His off-ball performance was really good throughout the year, and I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Now you're bringing in 6 recruits, 3 of them 4-stars. One of those 4-stars is Judah Mintz. He should be running the point guard spot next year, and moving Joe Girard to the 2 would probably be the best fit right there. So Joe Girard off the ball is definitely something that we need to see, especially with Buddy Boeheim leaving. I definitely think that was a bad thing I think that was just it's not a bad thing, obviously, but you have to replace Buddy Boeheim, who was by far and away the best player on the team this year, in my opinion. I also think our March performance, the guts that this team showed in March, especially some of the young guys, the guys who are coming back, Joe Girard in particular, I really like the way Sidibe played during March, as well as Benny Williams. He missed March, didn't he?
He missed a lot of it. He played well against Duke, which might have been late February. I don't know. It's kind of all blending together.
It was the Duke game, late February. But down the stretch, the guys started to get it going. Samir Torrance, obviously, he got hurt, but he started to get it going. just the guys who are coming back next year really started to get it going. I know there's not many because you have a ton of seniors, but the guys who are coming back, in particular, Gerard, really started to pick it up in that ACC tournament game. I mean, a 40-point win over Florida State. You were the underdogs for that game, and you win by 40. That's ridiculous, and that should show how much grit this team has, and hopefully the guys who are staying can carry that into next year. I also think, speaking of Gerard's, shooting was a big thing for this team. I don't need to say too much about it because the shooting, if you're looking at the shooting, a lot of the guys who provided the majority of the shooting besides Gerard are not coming back next year, so I don't want to talk about that too much. But I think Joe Girard's performance off the ball and the March performances are something that Syracuse can take in to 2022 and work really well with.
Hitting on that point, you mentioned Girard a lot. Obviously, next year he's going to come in expected to be one of our best, if not our best player. Obviously, you mentioned he's going to be the starting shooting guard. I think he's undersized, but he's a better fit for that role. I think he can play as a spot up shooter. He obviously can create his own shot very well. He's proven doing that. He can still pass, but you look at Mintz, who's the favorite to come in and start at point guards. He's 6'3". Great facilitator. He's ranked by a 5-star by some outlets. He's the favorite to come in and start at point guard. Underrated take, Samir Torrance could start at point guard. He's the best facilitator.
Would not be surprised.
He's the best facilitator on the team. I think he struggles to create his own shot. He can't really shoot at all, but he gets to the rack very well. Can pass out, and we're still going to have good shooting team. Ian Copeland, I think there are 3 very solid options that you can start at point guard if you mind moving Girard to the shooting guard, which I think is the likely option.
Who is the third guy you said? You kind of broke up there.
I believe Kadir Copeland.
Kadir Copeland, there you go. Yes.
He's obviously by far the third option there. I think they'd rather start Girard at point guard than Copeland as of right now. But Copeland could come in and sneakily start at point guard, or in a year or two be a starting point guard for this team. That's what they brought him in to do. But yeah, Judah Mintz or Samir starting at point guard, I think is the most likely option next year with Girard at the 2. And I think that's a good thing for Girard's game. He can focus on getting him more open shots. He doesn't rely on creating his own shots often. And I think it'll help the offense move a little bit better in general.
Yeah, definitely. And I know there's this whole notion that Jim Boeheim doesn't really trust freshmen, but he's going to have to trust at least one of them. If you start Samir at point guard, that's fine. But what about small forward? You're probably going to have to put Chris Bunch there at small forward, the other 4-star on this team, probably the second best prospect. Maybe you can put Justin Taylor, I believe, is the other 4-star. But overall, I definitely think this is something that kind of goes into our next topic about taking it to next year. What can SU take into next year? Depth. This team is a very deep team. I think my one concern would be at center. You have Edwards, and that's really it. John Bolajak could be okay, but it's John Bolajak. He's undersized, not that experienced when it comes to playing center. So maybe you could snag a guy through the transfer portal. I know that's still going to be a backup center. But overall, I think you're looking at a very solid team next year, a team that should be better than this team this year. And I think a team that's going to be a bit more – it's going to be younger. I'm not expecting, national champion. No, that's not happening. You're probably looking at a tournament team. Probably, I would assume somewhere between the 6 and the 11 seed. I wouldn't expect any higher than 6, really, personally. You might see this team in the rankings once or twice, but I think they would probably fall out come the end of the year. But overall, I definitely think this team can close out games better as well. I think when you have a lot of depth, you can rest those guys who need to be rested, get the other guys in, the depth pieces in, let them do the work for a little bit, and then when it comes down to the wire, put the guys in you need the most and close out those games.
I mean, this team has 6 freshmen incoming and 4 returning rotation players, and I'd expect at least 3 of those guys that are returning to start. You look at Girard, probably Benny Williams, and Jesse Edwards are going to start. And that leaves 2 open spots. Obviously, Samir can move up into the starting lineup, but I do think Jim likes him coming off the bench, especially since you're lacking a little bit of size with Samir and Girard. There's going to be a lot of trust put on these freshmen. I'd expect if they don't bring in a transfer guy, all 6 of them are going to play. Even if they do bring in a transfer guy, 5 of the 6, 4 of the 6 are going to play major minutes next season. So it's going to be a much, much different looking team. But I think a lot of the lessons from this season and a lot of the roles the guys played this season can help them improve next season.
Absolutely. I definitely think next season is going to be a bit brighter, as you kind of just said right there. So lots to look forward to. But let's close out this season by going through some awards. So let's go most improved player, defensive player of the year, rookie of the year. And rookie of the year includes transfers, by the way, and MVP. I'm going to go with Benny Williams. And I think the reason I know, like, I'm not really looking at like last season to this season. That's kind of hard to do. But I definitely think Benny Williams, you saw some improvement throughout the year. Actually, no, I'm going to change my answer. Scratch that. I'm going to go with Symir Torrance. I think Symir Torrance, you saw him towards the end, like the beginning of the year. He wanted to be that guy at point guard. And then he kind of accepted his role as a facilitator and really made it work around this Syracuse team. And I think he was a reason why Syracuse stayed in games throughout the end of the season when they didn't have Jesse Edwards, when they didn't have Benny Williams. And losing him come the ACC tournament was very rough. So I'm going to go with Symir Torrance. Benny Williams, a close second.
You're right. He's such an important cog on this team. But, I mean, even though he only played half the season, I got to go with Jesse Edwards. I mean, the leap he made last year, this year, it's unmatched by anyone on this team. Obviously, I mean, Gerard had a little scoring bump. He played more minutes. He shot better. I think it's Jesse Edwards undisputed. He looks like a competent center, which I don't really know if he did last year.
Yeah, I mean, last year was definitely a bit rough for him. I think this year, obviously, he improved significantly. And I mean, I kind of went with an approach like most improved player throughout the season. But if you're talking from last season, this season, it's 100%.
I might have missed that. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't explain it too well, so it's like it doesn't matter too much. I think we both took it different terms.
I do agree with your take that Symir did look a lot better over the season, kind of fitting into his role. But I think even then, like, you saw the leap Edwards made. He's such an important starter on this team.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads me to my next topic, defensive player of the year. It's also Jesse Edwards. He's the rim protector. He's the guy dominating the paint, bullying those centers, other bigs across the league. It has to be Jesse Edwards. I don't really need to say much. You kind of stated it, how important he is. But
I completely agree. I do think he is the defense player of the year, but underrated take, Cole Swider. Very good wing defender, especially earlier in the season. You saw when he was having his good games offensively, he kind of motored defensively. He'd be diving for steals. You know, he'd be locking up a little bit harder. And I thought he was our best wing defender this year. So I think you could throw him into the conversation there for best for defensive player. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I would totally do that too. I think he could be a close second. I mean, the thing is, like, Jesse Edwards has all those stats, which I think is why he's a more popular pick for the defense, because you don't really see, there's not really many defensive stats besides blocks and steals. But Cole Swider is another guy who very underrated on defense. But Cole Swider is my rookie of the year that includes transfers, guys coming to Syracuse. Cole Swider was a guy at Villanova, did not get many minutes. Really, just he needed a change of scenery, and now he's declaring for the NBA draft. I think looking at the draft, he'll probably go undrafted. I think you'll probably see him summer league gig. But other than that, I'm not expecting too much from Cole Swider. I think you and I kind of talked about that, Zach. A team who needs a wing scorer, a three-point shooter, and is a good team right now could use him. How about the Golden State Warriors? But anyways, I think he could he can make somewhat of an impact in the NBA. It's definitely a bit of a reach. But if he keeps up what he did this year with his shooting and his defense for that matter, he definitely needs to improve a lot. He's going to be raw. You're probably looking at a G Leaguer started off. But overall, I think Swider could be a solid player in the NBA. Maybe one day, never going to start probably, but probably he could be a solid bench warmer at best, in my opinion. And that's my rookie of the year.
Cole Swider, you know, I can make that same argument with you. I mean, he averaged 14 points this year. You know, was a very good shooter down the stretch, good defender. I think he kind of fits into like a lesser of a Reggie Bullock kind of role. You could see him go undrafted, work his way up through the G League. You know, just that kind of long 3-and-D wing, provides a little bit of defense for you. Everyone that's like that can carve themselves a little bit of a role. it was weird. I thought he should have used his last year of eligibility. I don't know how he would have fit in with all 6 of the freshmen.
Well, did you hear? I don't know if you heard this. Another big reason why he declared for the NBA, he's 23. 24 is usually you're not making it.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. A lot of the older guys in the G League, they can carve out a 1 year, 2 year career. But I mean, I was standing in front of him in line at Chipotle when he said, like, this is my last chance to go to the NBA. I think it's going to be a tough climb for him, but he showed what he could do this year. I don't know, since Syracuse wasn't really on a national spotlight, I don't know who's really seeing that, but I think he can carve himself out at least a little G League career. Maybe he works way up to like the 14th, 15th man on a bench, being a 3-and-D wing. But yeah, I would agree with you. He is the best first year player this year, as much as I think Benny Williams showed what he can do next year.
Yeah, Swider was making an impact every game. There's a reason why he was starting out there all the time. And MVP, it's Buddy Boeheim. I don't really need to say much more. I mean, he led this team to most of the victories they had.
I love Buddy. We all love Buddy. It's Buddy.
Mm-hmm. Buddy Boeheim. The end of Buddy Buckets, man. It's gonna be an interesting scene at Syracuse. I know we only got to see him for 1 year, you and I, but for everyone else, it feels like he's been here forever. And now it's just one Boeheim. After having 2 for a while, then 3, it's now just back down to 1. So it's gonna be an interesting year next year. But that is going to do
a nice 2-year career overseas or something.
Yeah, he'll be fine overseas. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see where he goes. But anyways, that is going to wrap up the Syracuse basketball season for 2021-22. Our coverage on that is done. We'll be talking about some transfers later on. We'll be talking about the recruits that we got this year. We'll preview it all throughout the rest of the episodes throughout down the line until November, which I believe is when our first game is going to be. But that is going to do it for episode 11 of the Corcoran Cap as well. Make sure to follow the guys on Twitter at ZCope3, at Rohit Kanat 71, at Joel Pettit 10. My Twitter right down here at @the_Sam Corcoran. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.